Thank y'all all.
I have one
Yes, sir.
thing, on the points that he gave to Steve, he didn't get the road closing correctly. It's supposed to be reroute or close the road. And they reroute, it's not on there.
If you'll address that with Mr. Langley, let him address that with Mr. Swafford.
Well, I think he'll take it here.
Okay.
Are we going to have another meeting at night?
That's been brought up, but I think the commission at this time as a whole has said they want to do some more research before they have a meeting.
How about we let them have one?
What's that? Well, I do think everybody does need to do some research on these wind towers. Because I looked at them myself and I thought, oh boy, this would be a great thing, put some over on my mother's land. And then I got to reading about them and I said, oh no.
And I think this is where I think that the commission, I think y'all as a group has made it clear that you're not happy about the idea of wind turbines. And I think the commission is looking at doing some research and even some talking about going to visit some. So I think that's where the commission as a whole, I'm not saying each individual, I think, but as a whole, the commission is visiting. So,
If you do that, will you look at some that are likely going to put on curriculum? Would you give me your word you do that?
well,
Without one.
I think,
Because the ones in Knoxville are not comparable.
okay, and that's the ones you went to visit.
Well, at this further moment, whenever we.
Yeah, I know, but that's the only ones in the southeast, but they're not comparable.
Which ones would you say that would be comparable?
Well, I just look at the specs and I would hunt, I'll find it for you. I'll find you some of the specs that NES is putting on there.
Yeah, if you recommend some to the commission as a whole that you think that would be comparable, that would be helpful.
I mean, I've talked to some owners that are willing to let you guys come over and spend the night and listen and hear. I mean, you know.
Anybody else?
Now, y'all did at the last meeting say you would do a public forum, correct?
And I think we will. I think we will. I think they just need some time to do some research.
Is that important that you guys get some more research done before we have a public meeting, or is this just an effort to buy some time to delay things?
That's right. More information, because none of us, you know, like Emmett went and looked at that one. But, I think it's in Sheldon, New York, because there's not a lot in Sheldon that are rock beds, there are some. And I talked to the gentleman for 45 minutes, I talked to the gentleman in Sheldon, New York. Anthony and I have talked several times, and I would like to go up there and convention any of the other commissioners to look at and talk to the people there and get a little more information.
And Vermont is a good area. Maine is a good area. Maine has just been bombarded, and some of the mountainous areas there, because West Virginia, it's got to be the same, similar terrain. If not, it's just going to be a waste of your time to go.
I think Sheldon might be the poster child. The man, Mr. Knapp, he actually came down and spoke for this energy company, or in favor of the energy company in Etowah. So, if they are operating similar like how we're suspecting, they can run them at different, ever how they want to operate them to put out whatever kind of time.
My big issue would be to talk to the people.
Oh, that'd be right. But when you go to Sheldon, you need to find that house where they've got the vibration issues. And a guy named Glenn Kramer, he told me that said there should be a report. Said they hear from it about every day.
Yeah.
And you need to find out for sure that the people are not people who have signed the contract, that they'll keep their mouth shut for a certain amount of money, because that happens too. They, before they're going to put one up, they'll go to the neighbors, and the neighbors will do a contract, and they get money, and in their contract they agree that they will not say anything that's detrimental to the wind farms. So make sure that you're not talking to one of the people who has signed one of those contracts.
It might be good to talk to those senators in Oklahoma, but put in more forward.
when they first crank these things up, supposedly they got to have power to crank them with to get them to turn. All right, and then if you get without wind a certain amount of period of time, if the batteries aren't charged enough to operate, then they require power back from the power line. So if, let's say we did have these things come into our county, we need to have some way of regulating how much the power company's having to sell back. In other words, if they're not gonna be efficient, we don't need them. And I think that they should have to prove that they are efficient before we receive them in. But you can't find that evidence right now. They won't share that information on how much energy they use as compared to what they produce.
And they want to have this power line, they don't have to put it there and get it out, just have that 50 out, most of the things that come up, think they're gonna let it out on what they got.
And the state of Alabama has bought energy from out west cheaper than they can produce it already. But according to the plans we're seeing with this, they're not gonna be able to produce it cheaper than they can in Coke. So I don't, in other words, they've already bought enough out of another state. So if they do produce it here in the state, they may sell it out of state.
But it's still gonna be passed on to consumers when they revamp our electric grid to handle the stuff together.
But I thought the Public Service Commission, they gave us good support, or they gave me a good idea that they wanted to do what was right. But they don't have any control of the rest of the legislators there.
I would like to address the issue of closing the road. Also, I would like for you all to do some studying on that before you ever say, well, we're gonna allow turbines, we're gonna close the road. So there are lots and lots and lots of people that do not want that road closed. So that needs to be looked at, and not just all of a sudden decision.
To keep track of each one of the individual, I know that we've been bombarded with phone calls from lots of people, but are you starting to get any more phone calls from people that are asking to help? I mean, I think this room is offered today, some people that, said if you need help, like, help, or you start to receive more phone calls, or we'll help you call and reach out to us.
I think they slowed down a whole lot, which is real.
Right.
I've got both. I've got some folks who sent me
Ask
articles.
somebody to speed them up.
And then I've had those who sent me, the counter side, the positive side, or the negative side. I've had both sides send or bring me to my office.
I'm in the process, I hope to do it today, to contact some folks in California that were all for this particular site that went into a historic area. And now the people that were for it and agreed on it are now considering bringing fraud charges against the wind companies because it's only producing 17%. So I'm going to make an effort to contact these people.
One of the biggest things that surprised me is I've had a good number of my seniors that's graduating this year that I've talked to about, that they're looking for a job and they'd like to have a job. And that's one of the things that I look at too, what my young people think too.
So we think.
Let me finish that first. Go ahead.
And it was good to hear the young people reach out that it's not going to have an opportunity to go to college and they need a job close by, from poor families, from families that can't afford, to buy a car for it to get here to there. And they're looking for opportunities whether it's a part-time job or a full-time job. But these are just phone calls that I receive. That's what I've been doing since, this all broke down is one of the last large meetings that we had was, to start. And I didn't go up and ask you if you for it or against it. A lot of people that's calling me, a lot of phone calls that I've got have been positive. And I look at it, and I listen, I got to listen to both sides of it.
Wait, Mr. McGuire, Andy said, let me get, wait.
I got one for you, I'm sorry.
Okay.
In one of the meetings, you said that it had been brought to you that the project not been threatened was reason that, need to be excluded from the bill? Can you tell us who told you that the project was being threatened, how you do that?
Well, you're talking about when I went to the hearing down there.
Well, in other words, who came and told you that the project had been threatened? In other words, that you had to make a move?
When we went down, you know, Mr. Kitchens and,
But who asked you to do it? I mean, who asked you to ask them for that support?
I'm unclear about what you're asking, man. You're asking me who asked what?
Who told you that the project was being threatened for you to have knowledge that you need to make the effort to be excluded?
I guess Mr. Kitchens was the first one that said to me, and he asked me to, when we went down to that hearing. Now at that time, when I went down to the hearing, I knew that this had been going on for 2 or 3 years, and I looked at this as a positive thing, and so I went down to the hearing to hear, and you had different wind folks from both Cherokee County and Cleburne County that were there, and you had the lobbying groups, and you had folks who were pro and who were con. You had a bigger audience than this. Some were pro and some were con against it. And we went to listen, and that's when Mr. Dial, or Senator Dial, came to me and said, you can be excluded. I wasn't aware, I think I said this before, I wasn't even aware you could be excluded. Richard Lindsay also came to me and said, you can probably be excluded from this bill, because we were looking at it as an opportunity.
Did Mr. Lindsay run you down to tell you that, or did Mr. Dial run you down to tell you that?
Mr. Dial came to me first. Mr. Lindsay came there about a second. I think Mr. Lindsay was I think he was caught in the middle, because in Cherokee County, there was a lot of folks that at that time were against him in Cherokee County. And he was undecided on where he was going to be at the end of this.
Well, I think the people up north saw the regulations as being protected, and then our senator, in a sense, was saying, let's leave Cleburne out in the cold without any protection.
Well, and I know we're going back to visit that, and you say hindsight's 20/20. But as it went into the House, we began to see that it was going to fail. And even Richard Lindsay would call me pretty much on a daily basis, and sometimes twice a day, and say, look, I don't think the bill's going to pass. He was undecided whether he was going to take us or put us back in at the time.
But what I'm saying is, Cherokee County Senator was able to provide them with some protection. In other words, in my way of looking at it, he was trying to help them, where our senator may have left us out of the way.
Well, I guess it's just which side you take. But now, if, as a group, and I think I mentioned this, as a group, if you can get this group to pass something as a whole, you know, is that 2-1, 3-1, 3-2? If you can get something passed as a whole, then they would ask the legislature to pass some sort of regulation or moratorium next year. You know, I think the legislature will meet probably in February, March next year. If that can happen, that's where we're at right now. That's the direction. We don't have the power as a group. I guess I think Mr. Hand mentioned if we as a whole write a letter to the governor, but that's what you have to do is get the group to pass. And I think Mr. Lane has put that on the agenda for next month, or this month, 2 weeks from now. If it passes as a whole, that's what we're trying to do as a group. But that's 2 weeks from now. I mean, that's where we're at. Mr. Martin?
Just a question. I'm unclear about the numbers. This has been stated to be approximately a $200 million project. That's a number I've heard. And I've heard that the number of turbines at one point in time, maybe I was deaf when I heard it, was like 25, or is that a number that anybody heard?
Early on, I heard it's up to 50, but I've heard it's been reduced down to close to 30. That's the last.
Is it reasonable in anybody's mind here we're talking $8 or so billion per turbine. I mean, I know construction costs a little bit. I know things are a heck of a lot more expensive than you think they ought to be. But it seems totally ridiculous to me that you could be talking about $8 or so million per one of these turbines. I think we just got a lot of information digging that needs to happen here. And I mean, I'm open, but at the same time, I don't think we're hearing everything we need to hear. I'm also hearing that, you know, we're talking about $500,000 taxes for the county. If I calculate $200 million worth of investment, I think we're talking about a whole lot more tax than $500,000 on the way I pay property tax. So we need some concrete information. I think the people that are proposing this project should be put to the task of answering these questions. And, you know, the public forum issue or something. Let's get facts. Let's don't deal with emotions and all that stuff. Let's get facts. Let's get stuff that we can understand, and let's get reasonable consideration for regulations that will protect the citizens of the county. You know, whatever, where they go or doesn't go. You know, there needs to be some reasonable protection. And right now, you know, it's an open field. I mean, it's absolutely do whatever you want to do. And that doesn't make sense to me. I don't like regulations. On the same hand, there's a degree to which you have to have regulations. I may be in a nursing home sometime soon, and I don't want to be in one that's not got some degree of regulation on it. Okay?
Mr. Newberry?
I read, was looking up, you know, people talking about the job availability for, you know, might be for some people in the county. What I found, most of it, you know, there is technical schools, junior college, stuff like that, offer the training for these, which is anywhere from 15 months to 2 year course. So, you know, basically, you got to have an associate's degree in some type of, you know, how to operate and maintain these turbines. So, you know, it's not going to, you know, unless you have a resume that, you know, maybe an electrical engineer or something like that, you might have enough qualifications for it. So, you know, well, unless they, you might get a job at the garage or something like that. I don't think they'll get the average guy that has any background in that field is not going to get a job working for these companies, like Siemens or General Electric.
Well, I just had a son who graduated from Auburn with an engineering degree, and he's in Chattanooga. And I sure would love to see him a lot more. So, Sally?
All right, my question's a legal question. I don't know, is it legal for me to print up and have y'all's phone numbers and hand out at my business so y'all can get one?
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody's numbers right here that are,
Okay.
yeah, that's.
So just make sure that I'm not gonna get in trouble for handing out y'all's phone numbers and addresses so people can come see.